Tuesday, good reason to party in New Orleans maybe, but Minnesota Republican Congresswoman Michele Bachmann says no reason to celebrate in Washington. So, Congresswoman, the bottom line is the president has proposed a budget that breaks his grand bargain with Republicans, and particularly with Speaker Boehner. That's not good.
No, it's not good. And I think what the president has done is he's given the perfect example to the American people why we need to have a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and why the Republican House has been so effective in trying to put the brakes on to whatever extent they can for the out-of-control Obama budgets.
Well, I know you say that, Congressman, about the last, but memory serves me, the last time Republicans had the run of the show, you were hardly a great fiscal steward. So convince the American people it would be different this time.
I will. The worst budget deficit under George Bush happened in his last term in office. That's when Nancy Pelosi was Speaker of the House. That budget ran something over $450 billion. President Obama blew through those deficits. He had in excess of trillion-dollar deficits year after year. And what the Republicans were able to do in the House is not continue that level of trajectory. Has spending gone up? It absolutely has, but the level has slowed down.
Yeah, but I get the point. I get the feeling, Congresswoman, and maybe not you in particular, but that a lot of your party have just given up the fight or is saving the fight for another day, keeping their powder dry, hoping that at the end of this year they pick up some more seats in the House, maybe take the Senate, and, you know, you bet you that's going to be a time when Republicans get serious. But is that a lot to hang your hat on?
Well, what we need to hang our hat on is boosting the labor force participation rate. We are at the lowest level ever for anyone over age 16 actually having a job in the labor force and in a full-time capacity. That has to change. And unfortunately, the president's budget is not a serious budget. It never balances. It doesn't send a signal to the marketplace, Neil, that anytime soon we're going to see a change in Washington's ways.
Then what do you think of what Paul Ryan did with Senator Patty Murray of Washington, where they found this sort of bipartisan way to address budget issues longer term? Do you think that did anything better? Because many conservatives in your own party say it barely moved the needle.
It did barely move the needle. In actuality, they did come to an agreement. They moved to the next step. I voted against that agreement because I agree with Mitch Daniels, former governor of Indiana, who said that our economy is like a car going 80,000 miles into a brick wall when it comes to debt. President Obama ensures that the United States government takes on debt that it can't handle, so much so that we're looking at a quadrupling of interest rates under this particular budget. We can't do that. It's not going to put us in a pro-growth mode. Even academic literature lets us know that this is not a pro-growth budget. That's what we need. Everyone in the private sector knows we need a pro-growth economy. President Obama's budget doesn't get us there.
Well, I was looking at his budget pretty closely. It's got over the years $1 trillion worth of tax hikes. Very little commitment to sustain cuts in spending, but the tax hikes, he thinks, will be able to shave these deficits as a percentage of GDP going forward. So he's hanging on tax hikes and hanging on hitting up the rich. What do you think of that?
Well, because he's following on from his idea of income inequality that he was dealing with in his State of the Union address. Another way to say income inequality is redistribution of wealth. That's essentially what the president is proposing in this budget, is redistribution of wealth again from production in the United States to dependency. And so dependency grows under this budget. Productivity, unfortunately, doesn't.
All right, but I guess I'm looking at the same big old numbers you are, and I don't care whether you're Republican or Democrat. You have to see in a nearly $4 trillion budget that there must be something that you can cut. But Barbara Boxer apparently didn't find any such room. This is from Barbara Boxer.
Well, absolutely, we can't.
Absolutely no way we're going to cut spending. We're not going to cut education, you know, and we're not going to repeal the Affordable Care Act. Let that be known. It's not happening.
It's not happening. What do you think of that?
Which again makes my case why we have to have a Republican-controlled Senate and a Republican-controlled House. We have the opportunity months from now this November. We have to make sure that Barbara Boxer's claim doesn't come true, because the American people, apparently the president isn't hearing what I'm hearing from the American people, which is, government, get your house in order, stop spending money that we don't have, stop increasing my taxes. I'm taxed enough already. That's very common sense. It's also the path to prosperity for the United States. It'll grow jobs where we need them the most.
Congresswoman, great having you on again. Thank you very, very much.
Thank you, Neil.
Michele Bachmann, His Nation.